There's a lot of photos that I share here in Weekly 50 that kind of start with the same overall premise, which was I was just out with my camera and I noticed this shot and I wanted to take it. That's not what happened here. This was an intentional picture, although it didn't turn out quite how I wanted. This was a picture that I specifically set out to take, and this is on the same redbud tree that last week's photo was taken on. So this photo was taken maybe 5 minutes after last week's photo. And on this tree, I could see bees all over it. I don't know how many. It's not like it was covered in bees, but there was a lot of bees flying around this tree. And I thought, well, I'm going to go out and see if I can take a picture of a bee getting nectar from one of these flowers. And there's a specific shot I kind of have in mind, which is a bee next to a flower or hovering near a flower, but not quite on the flower. And if you look on the blog, there's a link to a picture that I took years ago that kind of approximates this. And ever since then, that one type of picture has been kind of my white whale. I'd like to get this picture someday. I don't know if it's possible given my camera gear and my relative lack of experience compared to actual wildlife photographers, but it'd be cool to get this photo. And what you're seeing here is not that photo. It's not the photo that I wanted to take, but it's a photo that I enjoyed taking. I took anyway, and I feel like I learned something from it. This is a bee, and it's obviously getting nectar from this flower. And I think I shot this with my +4 close-up filter on my 50mm lens. I don't think it was my +10 because there's too much going on in the background. The +10 would obscure almost everything except just the bee itself. And these bees do not hold still. I don't know if you've ever sat and watched bees on flowers before, but unless it's in the early morning when they're still sleeping, they just don't hold still. They're constantly moving from one to the next. And that was my challenge here. I found... it wasn't like one particular bee, but I found this spot on the tree where bees were coming and going. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this here and maybe there'll be a chance to get the photo I'm looking for. And when you shoot with close-up filters, you have to balance a lot of things because you don't have a lot of leeway to play with in terms of what you're focusing on. Something is either in focus or it's not. It's not like a true macro lens where you can focus all the way out to infinity and back. And so I was trying to balance that. I was trying to balance the settings on my camera. I want to shoot with a small enough aperture to get the background out of focus and my subject in focus, but a wide enough aperture to get the right amount of depth of field. Basically, like you can't shoot wide open when you're shooting with a close-up filter. It'll never work. And so you have to shoot around like anywhere from f4 to f8. I think this is shot at f5.6. I was trying to figure out what aperture do I use? What angle do I want to shoot at? So where's the sun coming from? A lot of the same considerations as last week's photo, except this time it wasn't a static subject. It was this bee that was moving all around. And what I got was what you see here, minus about 30 or 40 photos that did not turn out. And I wish this looked a little different. I don't like that the bee's abdomen or whatever you call the bottom half of it is lit up and the head is not. So you kind of have to look to see the bee's eye. I don't like the awkward light and shadow. There's a lot I don't like, but what I do like is that this was a good learning experience. And if you've learned something from taking a photo, then it was a good photo to take. And that's what I feel like happened here. So I'm going to keep pursuing that bee photo one of these days or months or years. I'll get it. And until then, it's fun to go out and shoot and see what you can come up with.